UFC Fight Night Paris, Imavov versus Borralho takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of Shauna Bannon versus Sam Hughes. I'm going to go with Sam Hughes to win this in the early prelim opener. Shauna Bannon, she had the split decision to Alice Ardeline. Not really too much to be said there. It could have went either way. Then she got knocked down really badly by Pujatoma. Head kicked her. Shauna Bannon goes out cold from the head kick really badly. Gets hit with some follow-up shots. Comes back awake. And then submits Pujatoma. So that was very, random, chaotically circumstantial in terms of how she got the win. Other than that, I've not really been too impressed by Shauna Bannon. Whereas Sam Hughes, even though she's sort of been split decisioning her way through her last few opponents as well, there's a part of her game that I can point to and say that could be a problem in some way in a combat sport. And I can't say that about Shauna Bannon. It's not like I'm thinking, oh, Sam Hughes has got to watch out for the jiu-jitsu of Shauna Bannon. I know she got the armbar, but it's not like a part. And then there's not really, I can't really say, oh, Sam Hughes better watch out for the wicked stand-up of Shauna Bannon. Watch out for those kicks. Watch out for those punches. Watch out for the wrestling. Whereas with Sam Hughes, she's kind of made a career for herself, upsetting mid-level, bottom feeder level women's strawweight fighters. That's what Sam Hughes does. She just out-wrestles them, and that's a part of her game that I can point to. She has good wrestling, and she's gritty, and she's tough, and she's got good cardio. I don't know what to I don't know how I can positively describe Shauna Bannon's game. She's an MMA fighter, but Sam Hughes has something I can point to as a method of victory. So I'm going to say that Sam Hughes is probably going to win this one. Close decision. Wins it using her wrestling. I reckon she'll get a lot of takedowns at the end of rounds. That seems to swing things in women's MMA quite a lot. We move on, though, before we get to the next fight up the card, to the Prize Picks segment. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com and use code GURU, and new users, when they play $5, will get $50 instantly in lineups if they use code GURU. You have to use code GURU when signing up as a new user this week. Did I move that out of the way when I did that? Or did I? Oh, I did. It was actually perfectly around me. Either way, this week I'm going to be doing a little bit of a mix-up. I'm going with Pitbull for more than 1.5 takedowns against Losene Keita. I'm going for Modestas Pakauskas for less than 8.75 fight time minutes against Paul Craig. And I'm also going for Ante Delija for less than 11.75 minutes of fight time against Marcin Patricio. And we'll get to some of those matchups in a second. Let's get right back to the card. Use code GURU at prizepicks.com. Let's move on. Andreas Gustafsson versus Rinat Fakhretdinov. I'm going with, let me reallocate myself here. I'm going with Andreas Gustafsson over Rinat Fakhretdinov because if there's one thing I've noticed about Rinat Fakhretdinov's last few fights is that he leaves it very, very close. He did not beat Carlos Leal. End of discussion. He did not win that fight. He lost that fight. Some judge gave him 3 rounds. They were in Abu Dhabi. I think the guy's name was Mohammed, one of the judges. But either way, I'm not assuming anything, guys. But I thought it was a very bad decision. Then he had the fight with Nicolas Dalby. An equally very, very close fight. And he's had a few of these. Zaleski dos Santos. He went to a majority decision with him. Got 10-8'd in the last round of that fight. Rinat Fakhretdinov. One thing I find myself saying after every single one of his recent opponents, or every single one of his recent fights, I find myself saying if his opponent just did a little bit more, they would have beaten him. If he can't get his wrestling off, which he can't seem to against capable, well-rounded MMA fighters, Brian Battle got taken down a bunch by him, got dropped in the first round as well. One of his first fights down at welterweight, though. I think he had a bit of momentum, and then immediately it got shut down by Rinat Fakhretdinov in the division. But he's not a disciplined guy. I think Andreas Gustafsson I may have called him Michailidis earlier. There's another opponent of Rinat Fakhretdinov that he took to a decision. I find myself saying if his opponents did a little bit more, they could have beaten Rinat. Andreas Gustafsson, he can't do any more than he does. Constant pressure, constant volume. I don't think Rinat's going to out-wrestle him. I don't see that happening whatsoever. If anyone's going to be engaging in the grappling here more than the other, I think it's going to be Andreas, pushing him up against the cage, working him in the clinch. It's going to be a high-pace, high-effort fight, and we see fighters that have that approach, but not to the extent that Andreas does, do very well against Rinat Fakhretdinov as the fight goes on. So I'm going to say that Andreas Gustafsson is going to win this fight 29-28 based on the last 2 rounds, because I'm not going to have to say to myself, I wish he would have done more, he could have won. Andreas does as much as he possibly can at all times in fights. I reckon if he uses volume, mixes it up with combinations, continues exchanges on the feet, I think he'll do very well against Rinat. So I'm going to go with Andreas Gustafsson by decision, 29-28. We move on up the card to another fight, which is Brad Tavares versus Robert Bryczek. Robert Bryczek is very disappointing to me. This is what I think of Robert Bryczek's game. It was a very pathetic fart attempt. And not my proudest one. It was honestly, I'm disgraced by that. Okay? That one really just snuck out. It didn't even announce itself. You know what I mean? No respect, no manners when greeting the room. I actually want to restart the recording of this entire video and wait for a better fart. But it's, we got to take, it is what it is. You got to take what you can get, or what you can give. Robert Bryczek, though, he's shit, is what I was kind of going for there. He's terrible. He's dog shit. He's fart. His whole game is fart. And I didn't like his debut against Ihor Potieria, and we haven't seen him since. So I thought in his debut against Ihor Potieria, he looked fucking awful. And Ihor Potieria took that fight on very short notice as well. Ended up winning the fight, dropping Bryczek at one point in the fight, outlanding him as the fight went on over 3 rounds. And Bryczek just didn't do anything to change the fact that he was losing. I know Tavares has been pretty hit and miss, but he's been hit and miss against fighters that are at least proven to be able to win fights in the UFC. And Robert Bryczek's not that guy. I didn't really rate the regional career of him either. He kind of got beaten by a few guys, and you can see by the 6 losses on his record, despite only 1 loss in the UFC. He's got beaten by a lot of guys on the regional scene, and then he went on a bit of a streak against lesser competition, and they just let him in. I guess there's not much prospects in middleweight, but they let him in. He got the fight with Ihor. I thought he looked awful again. I think Tavares, he didn't look the best against Gerald Meerschaert, but he won. Split decision with Park Yin-young. I don't think that's that bad. The Iron Turtle, I think, is a pretty capable middleweight. Split decision for Brad Tavares there isn't that bad. I know he lost. I thought he lost that fight as well. Got knocked out by Gregory Rodriguez. It's not a bad look. You know what I mean? I can really, really feel disgusted by some of the results of Robert Bryczek's career, but I don't feel that way about Tavares. I think he's a better fighter overall. So I think this is going to be a stand-up fight, a boring dog shit fight. 29-28, Tavares special. Split decision maybe. Maybe it'll be competitive, but I think Tavares is more well-rounded and more experienced. He knows what to do to win certain rounds. I'm going to go Tavares by decision. We move on. Sam Patterson versus Trey Waters. I'm going with Sam Patterson. Trey Waters is very good. Sam Patterson's actually looking at a reach advantage here. Trey Waters is decent, but he hasn't separated himself from the pack. We saw him lose to Gabriel Bonfirm. He got immediately subbed by him with a Dash choke, I believe, as well, if I'm not mistaken, which is a move that Sam Patterson has. He has a lot of chokes in his game. And since moving up to 170, Sam Patterson has surprised me massively. He hasn't, no. He hasn't. I took him to beat Danny Barlow. I didn't pick him to beat Johan Leones for some reason, because he got chinned in his debut by Yanal Ashmuz down at lightweight. I don't think he ever should have been at lightweight in hindsight, right? Moves up to welterweight. He looks like a proper welterweight. I think he's a more well-rounded fighter than Trey Waters. He's a former lightweight. He actually came up in the lightweight regional scene. That makes you better than Trey Waters, a guy who came up at welterweight being 6'5". In my opinion, it just makes him a lot more impressive in terms of getting to the UFC through that pathway. He was fighting Dagestani guys at Brave FC. I think he's had a much harder road that has taken a lot more proving in order for him to get to the UFC than Trey Waters. Trey Waters had his fight with Billy Goff, 29-28, very, very close. Didn't really leave a statement on it. It was a fight that could have gone either way. I actually thought Trey Waters won the fight, but Billy Goff was on him and putting pressure on him. And I just think Sam Patterson's got too many options. He can strike with him. I don't think Trey Waters is going to KO him. He does have some ability to KO. I've seen his regional scene fights. Trey Waters, this is. Because I was actually pretty hyped for him as a prospect when he first came in. But I don't see crinkles to his game. I don't see finishing potential. I don't see a grappling part of his game. I don't see a plan B where he can go for grappling and get the submission. Sam Patterson has finishing potential in many different areas of the fight. We saw against Danny Barlow, he can TKO a power puncher and beat him to the punch and land really good follow-up shots. That was a really nasty finish that he landed on Danny Barlow. Then you look at him in his other fights where he's been able to take guys down, get his submission very easy, like it's routine to him. I think Sam Patterson is a very good welterweight prospect in the UFC, and I expect him to beat Trey Waters, and I'm actually going to say he wins it by submission. I think he'll be doing all right on the feet, both guys going back and forth, but I think the grappling of Sam Patterson is where he's going to set himself apart from Trey Waters. So I reckon some takedowns against the cage. Maybe he climbs up to get the back standing. I could see a standing back take, rear naked choke from Sam Patterson. I think he's way better than Trey Waters, and I think that's being noticed. I know he got rocked and dropped in his debut, but you know, Patterson came up the hard way. He didn't Cage Warriors it and get some nice matchups and then straight through to the UFC. He went around other promotions, taking on dangerous up-and-comers and submitting some of them as well with some nasty chokes. So I can definitely see that Darce choke here as well. But I'm going to go over rear naked for Sam Patterson over Trey Waters here. We move on. Up the card. For Essayam, this fight is cancelled. For Essayam, lost his grandmother. He pulled out the fight. For Essayam versus Caio Fernandez, cancelled. We move on. Marcin Tybura versus Ante Delija. Ante Delija, Croatian, 6'5", I would say. He's actually a bit taller than he's listed out here at 6'4". I don't know if they've done that correct, but I think he's a little taller. He's going to be noticeably taller than Marcin Tybura. The way I see this fight is, we've seen Marcin Tybura be able to fraud check prospects that aren't that good yet, that haven't been tested, and their first test is Marcin Tybura. And when their first test is Marcin Tybura, a guy who can grapple, a guy who can strike in a way, and he's tough, and, you know, he's all right striking defense-wise, he's got cardio, he's experienced. When they have their first test of their career, and it's Marcin Tybura, you're looking at, if they're talented enough, they breeze right through him. But if they're not, they'll lose. Mick Parkin, I thought he could have won the fight, but, you know, very close fight. I don't think it's a brutal robbery or anything. I just lean towards Parkin in a decision. We've seen other fights with Marcin Tybura when he picks up a decision against people, or even against Saint-Denis when, you know, he gets taken down. And before that, you know, he got taken down a few times as well against Austin Lane. Tybura gets him down. It's a different type of person on top. Gets the mount, beats up on Saint-Denis, really causes a lot of damage. The difference between them and Ante Delija is, Ante Delija is a experienced heavyweight. An extremely experienced heavyweight. I remember they were talking about signing Ante Delija during the 2020 time. 2019. I feel like they were talking about signing Ante Delija before that whole Fight Island situation and synchronized sneezing of the planet situation. So he's been around for a long time, and he's had mixed results here and there. You know, he had a stinker against one opponent, and then he had a fight against some fat blob that kind of held him up against the cage. He won the fight, but it was a really bad look for him. So he had a couple of fights that were a really bad look. But he beat Renan Ferreira, who fought Francis Ngannou. You know, he's got finishing ability, Ante Delija does. And one thing I trust him for here is that he's been training with Tom Aspinall recently for a very long time. So not recently, but for the past few years of his career, he has made the shift, and he's been training a lot with Tom Aspinall. And I believe in that. You know what I mean? I believe in that. I believe in the experience. 17-3. He's fought very capable heavyweights before. He's fought ex-UFC heavyweights before and done well against them. He can be finished, and he can be caught and put away. I don't think Tybura is going to catch him and put him away. I don't see that. Tybura needs to rely on a hole in your game that he can exploit. And I don't think that exists in Delija's game. He doesn't have a hole in his game. Sometimes he can be out-hustled, but I don't think he's got terrible grappling. I don't think he's got terrible stand-up. He's very well-rounded, and I think he's more athletic and more dangerous than Mick Parkin is. And he's more fast and better footwork. So I'm going to go with Ante Delija. I think he's a step above the guys that do get fraud-checked by Tybura. Even though Tybura is good, I'm going with Delija. He's experienced. He's not going to be in a position against Tybura when he's never seen this before. I reckon he'll actually get a finish. I think he'll go out there, chop low with the kicks, start landing some shots at range. Maybe in the pocket at some point he lands some good in-close shots and puts Marcin Tybura down in end of round 2, early round 2, end of round 1 region of the fight. I reckon Delija gets a finish by TKO. We move on. Up the card, Oumar Sy versus Brendson Ribeiro. I'm going to go with Oumar Sy. I think a lot of people are going with Oumar Sy here. No shock there, to be honest with you. Brendson Ribeiro keeps getting very odd matchups. He just lost to Azamat Murzakanov. They're giving him Oumar Sy. I know that Oumar Sy isn't like a top prospect anymore since he lost to Alonzo Menifield, but I just feel like Brendson Ribeiro's career is just can beast. Over and over again. You know? So he wins one, then he gets Mingyang Zhang, then he loses, then he wins one, he gets Azamat Murzakanov, and now even off a loss here, he's getting Oumar Sy. I don't understand the matchmaking for his career, but I'm going to go with Oumar Sy. I think he's much more well-rounded. I think he's a lot more patient, calculated. Brendson Ribeiro's more wild. He can get a finish maybe, but Alonzo Menifield's wild. Alonzo Menifield is powerful. He's probably better than Brendson Ribeiro by quite a noticeable amount, and he couldn't find the finishing blow on Oumar Sy, who's very elusive. I'd like to consider him a bit of a Cyril Gane of the light heavyweight division. I'm hiccuping. I'm suppressing hiccups. So yeah, I'm going to go with Oumar Sy. I think he's more well-rounded. I think he's better everywhere. I reckon he'll be able to win a bit of a striking technique matchup. 30-27. I don't see a finish happening. Maybe there will be. I see a decision win. Cleaning scorecards. 30-27. Oumar Sy. A little bit too good in the movement for Brendson Ribeiro. And he can slow fights right down and take away that wild factor because he does have the footwork to do so. Some fighters in the heavier weight classes just don't have the footwork to decide how high of a pace the fight is going to be. Oumar Sy at least has that, which means he can pick his moments against Brendson Ribeiro, which I think will save him from the potential chaos that Ribeiro could thrive in. So I'm going to go with Oumar Sy getting this one done by decision. We move on. William Gomis versus Robert Ruchala. I'm going to go with William Gomis here over Robert Ruchala. I've been watching a lot of Robert Ruchala's regional fights. Now, they've got a lot of guys on the main card here as well that are also making their debut. I've been watching a lot of Ruchala's fights. He lost to Saladin Parnas, who I've been hyping up for a long time. They haven't signed him. There's another fighter on this card that has lost to Saladin Parnas. Oh, no, William Gomis has also lost to Saladin Parnas. So that's a common loss for both of them. But Gomis lost to him very early in his career, whereas Ruchala lost to him for the belt in KSW. He actually got finished with a body kick to a grounded opponent. Saladin stood above him, just punted him straight in the solar plexus, and he just went like that on the ground. It was a nasty finish. I don't see a win for Ruchala here. I don't see it. I wish I could. I think William Gomis, although I think he's very good, and I think a lot of people would tell you, dude, he's a level above certain featherweights. Split decisioned Joe Anderson Brito. Split decisioned loss to, what's his name, Haider Emil. So you know what? I don't know. Maybe Robert Ruchala can get it done because he is big and physical. And William Gomis had that fight with Jarno Aarons, which was a majority decision. Then I believe he had a split decision win after that one as well. How many more times is he going to do barely enough to win against his opponent? I think Robert Ruchala might be, You know what? I might go with Robert Ruchala here as an underdog. He can mix it up. He's a little bit wild in the striking. He's got finishing potential. He's got experience. He's fought good levels of competition. He's got momentum right now. William Gomis is going to be competing in France. William Gomis typically has very nasty weight cuts as well. And after his last nasty weight cut, he got broken as the fight went on by Haider Emil. And Haider Emil just got smoked by Jose Delgado. So that doesn't really look too good in hindsight. I'm going to take the underdog in Robert Ruchala. He's got experience. He's well-rounded. I don't think he's all that talented in his game, but a lot of untalented fighters that are kind of aggressive and wild have made it very close with Gomis over and over again. He's eked out ahead of them, but I think there's more to just aggression there's more than just aggression in Robert Ruchala's game. So I'm going to go with Robert Ruchala. I'm going to say Robert Ruchala gets this one done. TKO to ground and pound. Maybe he gets a takedown in a certain moment, gets dominant position. Gomis gives up mount or gives up his back. Robert Ruchala pounds away, gets a TKO finish, round 2 or 3. I'm going to go with Robert Ruchala getting this one done. I changed my mind. I was kind of on the fence about this one, but I'm going to go with the underdog, Robert Ruchala, because I've been noticing too many close ones with William Gomis. And I don't know if Jano Aarons is way better than Robert Ruchala. You know? I don't think he is. So... And Robert Ruchala's been training at ATT recently. He's been making the move to ATT to take his game to the next level. I'm trusting in it. I'm trusting in the move. I'm going with Robert Ruchala to get this one done. TKO to ground and pound, 2nd or 3rd round. We move on to the main card. Patricio Pitbull versus Losene Keita. I'm going to go against Losene Keita. When it comes to fighting Patricio Pitbull. I am worried that Patricio Pitbull is a little too old and small for this. There is a fear that that could be the case because Losene Keita, he's very aggressive and very powerful. But I've been watching his fights, and for a featherweight, there's not much else to his game, you know. He fires same side attacks, straight right hand, rear right kick, and he fires them while being aggressive. There's no lead hand work. There's no low kick game. It's just open side attacks, straight right hands and straight kicks to the body and the head. And the whole time it's just him backing you up, corralling you to your left as you back up against him, and then just firing straight right hands at you. Firing straight right hands to the body. Then starting to bring those straight right hands upstairs. Then occasionally, sometimes if he gets a good reaction out of you, he'll start swinging, moving forward and start putting together some combinations. But I think you need a little bit more than that to beat Patricio Pitbull. Even at this point in his career where it's maybe, the time to beat him, he just got his win in the UFC. He just got that momentum. He's immediately looking to get right back in there against a guy who isn't even in the UFC. That tells me that Pitbull's like, fuck it, I don't care, I'm healthy. Give me matchups, I want to get paid. Because otherwise Pitbull could be saying, give me some time, I'll be on the Brazil card in the UFC. Give me this matchup, I want a ranked matchup, I want a guy at least in the UFC on a win streak. He's taking this matchup, I think he just wants to get paid. And he's healthy, which I trust. Because I know he could sit out right now. So I'm going to go with Patricio Pitbull. He just beat Dan Ige. I thought he won the fight very clear. And I could see him getting takedowns here. I said it on my prize picks thing, over more than 1.5 takedowns. And I think Pitbull's going to be able to get that. I reckon Pitbull's going to be able to get that on Losene Keita, who's so aggressive. And he does have a decent sprawl, but I saw in his last fight, he got dropped by the guy in the first round. A little bit off balance, but he got caught by an uppercut with the guy's wrist of the punch and sat down for a moment. He popped back up, but he was getting tagged a little bit towards the end of the first round. He had a big hematoma on his eye. Then the second round, he got taken down. He nearly gave up mount, but then he sort of got his arm out as the guy went for mount. He was very lazy going for mount. And then Losene Keita got back up and the guy sort of started to break. And this was a guy who was Serbian. I think his name was Celebration or Parisian or something like that. Not Patricio Pitbull, So I'm going to go against Losene Keita. I think his finishes look very impressive. And I've seen a lot of his finishes throughout time. And I've seen the foot injury thing is the only loss that he has and all of that. But I don't know, in between, I see a guy that needs a bit more than that to get rid of Pitbull, in my opinion. So, although he's big and powerful, I reckon Pitbull's going to get takedowns on him as he closes the distance. Maybe use those takedowns to get the back. I can see him getting the back of Losene Keita for an entire round. So I'm going to go with Pitbull. Plus, you got to consider Losene Keita, UFC debut jitters, been the man at Octagon, been hyping himself up for a long time. Now he gets signed. It's in France. He's from Belgium. He's going to get people all the way over. You know what I mean? He's going to have a lot of people in the crowd for him. I'm going to go with Pitbull. I think he's seen this all before. He's got a powerful guy that throws a lot of straight right hands and a lot of rear kicks. And it works. And he's got a lot of KOs from it, but I think you need a bit more. So I'm going to go with Pitbull getting this one done. I'm going to say that Pitbull gets this one done by submission, rear naked choke, or a decision win by taking the back, by taking dominant position, by getting a takedown into side control. Positions like this, I'm going to go with Pitbull for. So that's what I'm going for. Patricio Pitbull getting it done using jiu-jitsu positional grappling. We move on. Axel Sola versus Rhys McKeer. I promise I'm not just picking against all the guys making their debut, but I'm going against Axel Sola here. I'm going to go with Rhys McKeer in this fight. Axel Sola. Actually French. Rare in France these days, but actually French guy. Which is cool to see. But yeah. He's going to lose, I reckon. Sorry, I don't know. I'm really having a lot of heartburn here. But he's going to lose. I reckon Axel Sola's going to lose. I was watching his last fight against Gilles Oubroulo. I can't remember the fucking Frenchie's name. But Gilles Oubroulo, his name was something along those lines. Fucking really messy war. And a few fights before that, if I'd seen those, and they were against lesser comp, if I'd seen those before his debut, I might think, okay, this guy's got finishing potential. This guy's being dominant. But I saw him against a bit of a crafty vet who's fought some good opponents, but had been 1-1. Gilles has been 1-1 recently in his career. Win one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one against regional fighters. And he gave Axel Sola a very tough fight. Dropped him in the first round, was beating him up in moments in the clinch, caused a whole bunch of damage on him, cuts, swelling, all sorts. It was a very messy fight. Axel Sola had good grappling moments, and he also had some moments where he landed some good shots in the clinch and on the break from clinches and in combination to enter the clinch. He's got good, crafty, close-range fighting. But at range, I think Rhys McKeer is way better than him. I think at range, when it comes to distance management and striking at range, Rhys McKeer is way better than Axel Sola. And I don't think Axel Sola has the ground game necessary to take down Rhys McKeer and dominate him on the ground. So I think we're going to be stuck at range. Maybe we could see a situation where Axel Sola's fighting on the inside and working some dirty boxing and catching Rhys McKeer in the clinch with some uppercuts and punches, but I don't see him being able to get his ground game off, and I don't see him winning this fight if it's a striking match. So I'm actually gonna go with Rhys McKeer, 29-28 decision, doing more damage in maybe the first and second round. No. Maybe there'll be adjustment in the middle. But I'm going to go with Rhys McKeer based on rounds 1 and 3 or 2 and 3. Swing rounds in the first 2. Third round, very clear for Rhys McKeer. And also, Rhys McKeer's got really nasty elbows in the clinch as well. And good knees. I'm going to go Rhys McKeer here. I'm going to go with Rhys McKeer as the underdog. Only a slight underdog, but yeah, I reckon we're going to have a bad debut for Axel Sola. He's the only French guy on the card. He's going to be in the, he's in Paris. It's going to be a lot of pressure on a lot of these guys. I think Rhys McKeer, even though he's not the best, I think he is too much for Axel Sola. I'm not that impressed by his regional career. We move on. Borralho versus Mason Jones. I was kind of torn on this one for a bit, but I'm going to go with Mason Jones. It's hard to know why. But I'm burping a lot. I don't know why. It's hard to know why to say Mason Jones is going to win this one. Even though Borralho is faster than Mason Jones, and he has tidier hands in round 1. No, not tidier hands. He has more dangerous knockout ability with punches than Mason Jones. But I ain't seeing no KOs with punches from Borralho, so I'm not going to say that that's going to be a factor here. Mason Jones has a granite chin. That's one thing he does have. He's a bit slow. That's what I'm worried about in this matchup. He's a little bit slow, so maybe Borralho is going to be a little bit too fast for him and sting him with good enough shots to stop the pressure from Mason Jones, to cause damage, and to win the fight by decision. I think if anyone's going to out-grapple anyone here, it'll be Mason Jones. If they are going to mix in the grappling whatsoever, I think it will benefit Mason Jones as the fight goes on, because he likes to be in that grueling fight where he can push cardio, pace, volume in the takedowns, and volume on the feet as well. I do worry sometimes about him getting chinned, but he takes shots very well, and he does have decent, good understanding of distance control, and he has a reach advantage over Borralho as well. I'm going to go with Mason Jones. I'm going to go Mason Jones. Little bit of a crazy few moments in his debut against Jeremy Stephens. Borralho got guillotined by Chris Duncan in round 1, submitted. After that, he beat Michael Aswell. Pretty uneventful decision win. He had another fight before that as well, against another very mid-bottom feeder level lightweight that he won. I think it was like Kakera or something like that. Not Kakera. It wasn't Kakera. Markel Medeiros. Very close decision, if I'm not mistaken. So he's never really done anything to set himself apart. Mason Jones, I always thought, was a really good prospect. He got to the UFC, he lost to Mike Davis, who I think is better than Borralho, and that was a while ago. Since then, he's been whooping up everyone on the regional scene. Back to the UFC, won his debut. Now he's in Paris. I reckon Mason Jones is going to get this one done. As the fight goes on, decision, 29-28, loses the first round. Borralho looks a lot faster than him, a lot more powerful with the hands, but Mason Jones stays in his face, keeps a grinding fight on him, and takes him out in the second and third to a decision win. Maybe we even see a 10-8 in the third. I don't see a finish though, but I do see Mason Jones breaking him as the fight goes on. We move on. Up the card, Modestas Bukauskas versus Paul Craig. I'm going with Modestas Bukauskas, and I'm going to say that he finishes this in round 1. We're looking at a first round TKO for Modestas Bukauskas. I really like Paul Craig. I think Paul Craig is a cool dude. I think he's one of the more entertaining fighters to listen to. He's got a good personality. He hypes fights well. But the fact is, he's been in front of us for a decade and there's been zero improvement in stand-up. Paul Craig. I don't know what you want me to do. The body kick of doom is not cutting it anymore in 2025, Mr. Craig. End of discussion. We may need more than the body kick of doom. Modestas Bukauskas comes to the UFC, wins a few, loses a few, gets his knees snapped backwards by Khalil Roundtree, gets cut from the UFC, recovers from his injury, wins 2 fights on the regional scene against decent-ish comp. One of them was pretty good. Finishes the guy badly by KO, one of them. Then gets back into the UFC. Gets some good fights in the UFC. He's had 2 finishes. Rafael Kakera, he got a finish against. He beat up Marcin Prachnio eventually and finished him. And he even had a fight with Kutalaba in his last one. Very close split decision. A little bit of controversy there. But I reckon on the feet, which is where this is going to be, Modestas Bukauskas is going to chin Paul Craig early in this fight. Round 1. I see round 1 TKO for Modestas Bukauskas. He's good on the front foot, and he's good. Modestas is this, in my opinion. He's good at tracking opponents down that are backing away from him. If you can back Modi up, you can take power away from him a little bit. And maybe you can put pressure on him. You can start catching him because he's not as good on the back foot, in my opinion, although he can fight that way. Other than that, though, when Modestas is backing people up and they're trying to like scoot around the outside of the cage, he does a very good job of cutting off the octagon in a way to land his straight rights. So I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas. First round KO over Paul Craig, I think is going to be devastating. And I reckon he's going to get a real big moment here in his career and start looking towards some high levels of competition. Plus, I'm pretty sure they've trained together before because Modestas does a lot of training with Tom Aspinall. Paul Craig does a lot of training with Tom Aspinall in the UK. I wouldn't be surprised if they've crossed paths in a gym before. I don't know if it's for sure, but I would very much say 99% likeliness that they did train together at some point. And with a guy like Paul Craig, it's good to get a little training session in with him, just to see how good that ground game really is, you know? So I'm going to go with Modi here. Modestas Pikauskas, first round TKO over Paul Craig. We move on. Benoit Saint-Denis versus Mauricio Ruffy. I'm going with Mauricio Ruffy, and I'm very confident in Mauricio Ruffy as well. I do understand, because I've seen some murmurings that certain people are picking Benoit Saint-Denis here, okay? But I do understand the pick. We don't know about Ruffy yet. We do know about Benoit Saint-Denis, but we know that Benoit Saint-Denis can take down Dustin Poirier and have him in some pretty precarious positions, and he can land some good shots against Poirier up against the cage. We don't know that with Ruffy yet, and I think a lot of people are looking at like the James Lontop fight, which of course Lontop didn't cut weight for. He had a massive weight advantage over Mauricio Ruffy, and he took a lot of shots that a lot of guys who had made the weight wouldn't have been able to take. He looked very fat in the fight, and you know, he put a decent fight on against Ruffy. I'll say this though. On the Contender Series, Mauricio Ruffy fought a welterweight Dagestani guy who was very, very good. Very, very good. And he had some pretty good takedowns as well. And Ruffy did a very good job of stuffing some of those takedowns with whizzes and good positions like that. So I don't think Benoit Saint-Denis is going to be able to dominate him in the grappling. And before we even get to that, because Benoit's not just going to shoot straight away. I think he looked like shit in his Prepelec fight. Even though he won it dominantly, I swear to God, he's so slow on the feet. And his head is right there, and he doesn't move it at all. Against Mauricio Ruffy, you can talk about all you want when it comes to who's training with this, and who got fraud checked here, and who had this bad performance here, and who had this performance back in time here. 2 years ago, this happened. Whatever. Mauricio Ruffy is one of the nastiest shot selectors in the UFC. He does a very good job of leading people into really devastating KO blows. He's known for the highlight reel, right? That's what Ruffy does. Benoit Saint-Denis wades forward with no feints in his footwork. He's kind of like a slow Aaron Pico in a weird way, but not as chinny. But he wades forward and he throws shots with his chin up in the air. He is so fucking slow when he does that. I've watched fights of these two compared, side to side. Ruffy is twice as fast at throwing punches than Benoit Saint-Denis is, and I can't ignore it. Now, you could say we don't know about Ruffy's ground game. Maybe Benoit could win, and therefore Benoit Saint-Denis, I think he's going to win because we don't know about Ruffy yet. We know that Benoit's ripe for a KO blow on that chin. I don't know that Ruffy's, wait till he gets wet blanketed. It's eventually going to happen. I can't say that at all. He hasn't shown me that weakness yet. Whereas Benoit Saint-Denis, I know that fucking devastating KO is coming soon. He took a lot of damage against Renato Moicano. He got finished by Dustin Poirier. Took a lot of damage there as well. Won his fight against Prepelec, and now here he is in France. Last time he was here, he got fucked up by Renato Moicano. I reckon Ruffy's going to chin him so badly. I reckon Ruffy's going to catch him McGregor style. Proper McGregor Aldo style. Benoit Saint-Denis trying to track him down. Maybe there's going to be some moments where they're against the cage and Ruffy's doing a lot of shoulder rolls and Benoit's whiffing and landing on the arms and throwing a very slow body kick. But I reckon in other moments when Benoit gets him up against the cage, Ruffy will have set traps for him. And I think he'll catch him with his back to the cage. Bang. Like Frivola caught Ottoman Azaitar in a weird way. I think it'll be very similar. I'm going to go with Mauricio Ruffy getting this one done. First round KO against Benoit Saint-Denis. We move on to the main event. Nassourdine Imavov versus Caio Borralho. I'm going with Nassourdine Imavov. And he's an underdog here. And let me tell you this. I've been doing pretty good on underdog picks this year because I don't think there's been a year that has had more incorrect odds than this year. These are incorrect odds. Charles Johnson, Lona Kavanagh should have been even odds. And I was leaning towards Charles Johnson. He should have been a favorite in that fight. There are certain odds this year that are just straight up wrong. And I don't want to say that that's the only reason I'm picking Imavov because the odds are wrong. I think Imavov should be like a 2-1 favorite. I'll be honest. I really think he should be. He's very good. And Borralho's very good as well. They both had the fights with Jared Cannonier. I would actually say that Borralho had a better performance against Cannonier, even though Imavov did finish him. And probably was on his way to getting a TKO. Let's just call it what it was. It was an early stoppage, but he was about to TKO Jared Cannonier in round 4. For the first 3 rounds of Borralho Cannonier, I thought Borralho did better than Imavov did in the first 3 rounds of his fight with Cannonier. But Imavov didn't have all that marked up on his face. He didn't have that big cut under his eye and the big hematoma here. So even though Borralho was doing better with the management of the strikes, I think Imavov is a better fighter than Borralho. I think he's more technical than Borralho. His footwork's better than Borralho. He's faster than Borralho. He's more athletic than Borralho. I think Borralho can't take him down. I don't think that Imavov has better grappling than Borralho. I think Borralho, jiu-jitsu included, has a better grappling game than Imavov. But Imavov can take down Borralho, and I don't think Borralho's going to take down Imavov. I know he got caught on one leg against Brendan Allen, who landed straight inside control against him. I just don't think it's very likely that Borralho's going to be able to shoot a good shot and get it on Imavov here. And even if he does, I don't think he'll be controlling him for long. So I'm going to go with Nassourdine Imavov. I think he should be just under a 2-1 favorite. Borralho's been out for a very long time. He's been out for a year. He was making weight 3 weeks ago. Red flags. He made weight 3 weeks ago. Or however many weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I think it was. For Duplessis versus Chimaev. Now he's making weight again. 185. For this fight. Nassourdine Imavov. While Imavov's just been focused and training. And ready to put on the performance that he needs. To get a title shot. Imavov's #1 contender. He shouldn't even need to do this fight. He knocked out Israel Adesanya in round 2. And he had good wins before that as well. But he's taken this fight anyway. I think Imavov is apart from the rest of the pack. And I don't know if Borralho is yet, man. He beat Cannonier by decision. Basically a 5th round TKO, if you know, you know. But other than that, with Borralho's game, the Paul Craig finish is one thing. Welcome to the club. You beat Paul Craig and knocked him out on the feet. Very impressive. Other than that, though, the Mikhail Alekseychuk win is good in the grappling. I'd say, because around then, Mikhail Alekseychuk jiu-jitsu wasn't as good as it is. He's now training with the fighting nerds and improving in that way. But in the Makhmud Muradov fight was very close and competitive. Then the Arman Petrosian fight was very close and competitive. And Imavov has had some stinkers as well. He lost to Phil Hawes. Phil Hawes was grabbing the cage and Imavov fumbled a finish against him. But Imavov's young. Borralho's 33. Imavov's 29 years old. So when Imavov was losing these fights earlier in his career, he was a 24-year-old guy, 25-year-old kid on the come-up, new to his career. Whereas Borralho's been in his 30s with some of these weak performances, 29, 28. I know that everyone develops at their own time, but I reckon Imavov is the one coming into his prime, and he's going to be the one making improvements here. He just had the best finish of his career against Israel Adesanya. Probably money went through the roof. All of the focus on him at the gym right now. I reckon Imavov gets this one done, and I reckon he gets it done by TKO finish in round 3 or 4. I'm taking him to beat Borralho. I think he has the grappling and jiu-jitsu to at least survive Borralho or avoid the positions that Borralho wants him in when it comes to getting a back take or anything like that. I don't think that's ever going to happen in this fight. This is going to be a striking match. Right? That's the way I see this. Who's a better striker? Caio Borralho or Nassourdine Imavov? It's Imavov by far. By far. And his footwork's better. So if Borralho wants to make this a grappling match, I think it's way more difficult for him than it is for Imavov to try and turn this into that. I don't even think Imavov will try and try taking down Borralho. But in both of their fights with Cannonier, Borralho weren't really trying to take him down, or didn't. And Imavov took down Cannonier twice. So I'm going to go with Nassourdine Imavov getting this one done. Later rounds, TKO, rounds 3 and 4 are the ones I'm looking at. I think he's too slick. With Borralho, he's well-rounded and he outmixes martial arts against his opponent. And it is impressive to see. And against Cannonier, his lead hand attacks with his jabs were very good against Cannonier. Very, very good. With Imavov, he has moments of like excellence in his game. And I've never seen that from Borralho yet. I haven't seen the moment of excellence. And I don't think you can have a moment of excellence against Paul Craig. You can have a moment of, I'm not shit against Paul Craig. But I don't think you can have a moment of excellence. Imavov's had moments of like finding the perfect shot and the adjustment that needed to be made against Israel Adesanya, main event, UFC Saudi Arabia. Knocks him out in round 2, puts him away. The adjustments he made against Brendan Allen, I thought it got very messy in that fight, but he stays clean. He stays clean. You never see an Imavov fight where he's fucked up, you know? And then even the fight with Buckley, a lot of people looked at the Buckley fight. I'm going to fart again. That one didn't come out all at once. But Nassourdine Imavov has had moments, even against Jared Cannonier, the way he found that shot. Borralho was breaking Cannonier. The pressure was getting to Cannonier. He puts him away with a good shot up against the cage. Imavov found the angle, found the punch, followed it up. He was going to TKO him. Let's just call it what it is. Then you look at the moment that he had against Buckley. I don't even think he lost the 3rd round. He was out grappling Buckley. He was dominating him on the ground in moments. He was landing really crispy strikes on the feet. The arrogance he had, the fluency he had. This all comes into it when it's a close fight. I'm going with Nassourdine Imavov. Better fighter, way better striking, way better footwork, way faster, way better distance control. Incorrect odds. Very incorrect odds. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Yeah.